Interesting facts about polar bears. We call it white or polar, and the Latin name Ursus maritimus is sea bear. The polar bear is the largest land predator on Earth. Polar bears live only in the Arctic, near the North Pole. Polar bears have large, overlapping ranges and are loyal to common geographic regions, but they do not defend their territories. The mass of an adult polar bear can reach 0.7 tons, and the body length can exceed 3 meters. Polar bears are excellent swimmers. The officially registered record is 687 kilometers on water, covered by a polar bear without stopping to rest. Polar bears often travel on drifting ice floes. The sensitive nose of the polar bear allows it to smell prey at a distance of up to 1.5 kilometers, hidden under a meter-thick snow. Adult polar bears lead a solitary lifestyle, but friendly relations can arise and be maintained between them. Polar bears are endangered due to both poaching and constant ice melt. The fur of the polar bear is covered with a greasy water-repellent layer, so that while swimming, these animals do not get wet. Polar bears have webbed feet on their feet to help them swim. They are pretty clean animals. They take care of their fur. After eating, the bear washes himself thoroughly, no worse than a cat. In hibernation, unlike brown relatives, polar bears do not lie down. Except for female bears, who will have cubs. In this snowy house, they sleep properly and breed offspring. The exit from the den is opened only when the bear cub is already a little older, at 3 to 4 months. Bear cubs are usually born in winter, from November to January. Most often, one is born, and very small, helpless. The bear sleeps at this time, but wakes up from time to time and checks if everything is in order. For 2 years, his mother takes care of him, and then he begins to live separately. Brown bears dig dens in the ground, and white bears dig in the snow, and such a den usually has several rooms and even an exhaust hood. The swimming speed of an adult polar bear is about 10 km per hour. While in the den, the activity level of the pregnant female decreases and her metabolism slows down. Changes in her metabolism allow her to go without food, water, defecation, or urination for very long periods of time. Fat stores provide her with the energy she needs to support herself and her young. However, if necessary, the polar bear wakes up easily. This process is called winter sleep. A newborn white bear cub weighs only about 1 kilogram. Polar bears spend more time in water than on land. Brown and polar bears can interbreed and produce hybrids. As they are related species, they had common ancestors. In warm and humid conditions, polar bear fur can turn green due to algae starting to grow in it. The skin of a polar bear is black, and the tongue is blue. Despite their impressive size, polar bears can reach speeds of up to 40 km per hour while running. The average life expectancy of polar bears is about 25 years. In captivity, individuals can live up to 45 years. Ice rafts are used by polar bears as hunting platforms. They are especially attracted to open water and ice fields, areas where they can hunt seals, which are the basis of their diet. Bears can remain motionless for several hours above a seal's breathing hole in the ice, waiting for it to appear. The sea is a native element for polar bears. Polar bears have no natural enemies. Strong, fierce, intelligent and patient hunters, they lead the food chain in the Arctic. Polar bears can build nest-like beds out of seaweed washed up on the coast. When food cannot be found, fat acts as both a food store and an energy store. The thick fat layer helps bears generate heat and protects them from cold air and icy water. Its thickness can reach 10 centimeters. Polar bears see well underwater. They have a nitrating membrane, eye membrane, that allows them to see underwater and protects their eyes from wind and bright sun. Polar bears have poisonous livers. The indigenous peoples of the north never eat the liver of a polar bear, but the meat is boiled for several hours before eating. The fact is that the liver of this predator contains a huge amount of retinol, or vitamin A. In total, 100 grams of the liver contains 600 milligrams of retinol, while the daily norm for a person is 1 milligram. And if you eat 100 grams of this offal, then severe poisoning, accompanied by fever, headache, acute pain in the stomach and nausea, is guaranteed to you. According to some reports, there are between 22,000 and 30,000 polar bears in the Arctic. In order to preserve the population of this animal species, people are obliged to provide polar bears with large, safe places to live, and also not to pollute their habitat. The Arctic without polar bears is simply unthinkable. They are grouped with seals, sea lions, walruses, whales and dolphins, and are also subject to the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Although polar bears are good swimmers, they can get into trouble when storms kick up during long walks. Sometimes they can drown when far from land in rough waters. Research shows that long-distance swimming can also have physiological and reproductive effects. In particular, they look for ringed seals and bearded seals because they are high in blubber, and blubber is critical to polar bear survival. They spend most of their lives alone, with the exception of a few rare situations, such as when several bears feed on a whale carcass at the same time. While their elders are usually loners, young polar bears often frolic and play with each other. The female polar bear starves longer than any other mammal species. In Canada's Hudson Bay, pregnant polar bears can starve for up to 240 days. There is reason to believe that they will starve even longer in the future as the ice melts and bears have less opportunity to hunt and less time to build up the fat stores needed to get through months of starvation. For example, in the 1980s, non-pregnant polar bears starved for 120 days between hunting seasons. Newborn polar bears are blind, toothless and 30 centimeters tall. But by the time they first emerge from their lair, about 4 months later, young bears have grown significantly and weigh between 10 and 15 kilograms 18. In addition to breastfeeding, at the same time they begin to eat solid food, and by 8 months they already weigh 45 kilograms or more. Polar bears have huge feet. Polar bears boast gigantic legs that allow them to balance on ice. Their paws can reach up to 30 centimeters 19 in diameter and act like snowshoes, distributing the beast's weight across thin ice and deep snow. Roughness on the paws helps them not to slip on the ice. They also possess long, curved claws that can reach almost 10 centimeters, which allows them to better grip slippery seals. Polar bears are very difficult to track. Considering how far they travel, and walk and swim, in a year, you can imagine how difficult it is for scientists to keep track of them. By nature, they spend a lot of time alone in remote places. To observe them, scientists use boats, helicopters and low-flying aircraft, but this only works in good weather and in certain places. Polar bears don't have to worry about getting water in their noses. When they swim, their nostrils close 22. They can swim to depths of up to 4.5 meters 23, and although they usually only submerge for a few seconds, polar bears can hold their breath for more than 2 minutes. Dear friends, if you liked the video, please subscribe and like. It makes me happy. Thank you.